The Little Red Riding Hood. In a cozy little cottage nestled beside a sprawling wood lived a sweet young girl known to all as Little Red Riding Hood, for she always wore a bright red hooded cloak made by her grandmother. One sunny morning, her mother packed a basket filled with freshly baked cakes and a bottle of wine. "Go now, my dear," she said, "and take this to your grandmother. She is not feeling well." Little Red Riding Hood, always obedient, set off through the woods, humming a merry tune. The path wound through tall trees and dappled sunlight, and she paused to admire the colorful wildflowers that dotted the forest floor. Meanwhile, lurking in the shadows, was a sly and hungry wolf. He spotted the little girl in the basket and his mouth began to water. He approached her with a deceptive sweetness. "Good morning, little one," he said. "Where are you off to so early?" "I'm going to visit my grandmother, who is ill," Little Red Riding Hood replied innocently. "I'm taking her some cakes and wine." "How thoughtful!" the wolf exclaimed. "Why don't you wander a little and pick some beautiful flowers for her? It will surely cheer her up." Little Red Riding Hood thought this was a lovely idea and strayed from the path to gather a colorful bouquet. The wolf, seizing his opportunity, hurried to the grandmother's cottage. He knocked gently, and a weak voice called out, "Who is there?" "It is I, your Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf mimicked. "I have brought you some cakes and wine." The grandmother, thinking it was her dear granddaughter, called out, "Lift the latch and come in, my dear." The wolf lifted the latch, and in a single gulp, swallowed the poor old woman whole. He then put on her nightcap and climbed into her bed, pulling the covers up to his chin, waiting for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. Soon enough, Little Red Riding Hood reached the cottage and knocked. "Who is there?" croaked the wolf, trying to sound like the grandmother. "It is I, your Little Red Riding Hood," she replied. "I have brought you some cakes and wine, and some lovely flowers. Come in, my dear," the wolf said. Little Red Riding Hood entered the cottage and approached the bed. "Grandmother," she said, "what big eyes you have." "The better to see you with, my dear," growled the wolf. "And grandmother," she continued, "what big hands you have." "The better to hug you with, my dear," the wolf replied, showing his sharp claws. "But grandmother," Little Red Riding Hood said, her voice trembling slightly, "what a terribly big mouth you have." "The better to eat you with," roared the wolf, and in a flash he sprang from the bed and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood whole, just as he had her grandmother. His belly full, the wolf began to snore loudly. A huntsman, passing by the cottage, heard the unusual noise and suspected something was amiss. He entered the cottage and saw the wolf asleep in the grandmother's bed, his belly suspiciously large. Realizing the terrible truth, the huntsman took out his knife and carefully cut open the wolf's stomach. Out popped Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, both unharmed. Together, they filled the wolf's belly with heavy stones and then threw him into the deep well where he drowned. And from that day on, Little Red Riding Hood never strayed from the path again.